Hi, my name's Alison and I'm here today to talk to you about the 5 key concepts of RAP and the stages of a RAP plan. RAP stands for Wellness Recovery Action Plan. RAP has helped me move on to newfound wellness that for many people they thought I would never get there. At the age of 17 I was written off by services where my parents had all hope taken away from them, and equally I had hope taken away from me. I was told that this was going to be my life and I was always going to be a very unwell person. I first came across RAP about 10 years ago, and I attended a RAP group, and it just made sense to me when the person was telling all of the things, and I began to think about how important the 5 key concepts actually were to me in my own recovery. So I'll talk about the 5 key concepts now. The first one is hope. Without hope, we're nothing really. And to be told that there is no hope for you and to have yourself written off is a really sad thing. So it makes me realise how important hope is, and how there is hope for everyone, no matter how unwell it seems to other people that they are. There is hope that they can get better and do get better, as I'm living proof of that. And I like to try to instill hope in other people that I meet through doing RAP groups and showing them that people can get well and do stay well. So that's hope. The next one, again, is really important, and that's personal responsibility. I think I've probably spent the first 30 years of my time in services waiting for somebody else to make me better. And I didn't accept any personal responsibility for my care and treatment or my wellness. And it wasn't until I began to take personal responsibility that things actually started to improve in my life. It can be really hard to take personal responsibility when so many of the treatments that are given out take personal responsibility away from you. It's hard to regain that. But once you do, and that you realise that you are actually responsible for your own wellness and can have a great deal of say in your care and treatment, things do get better. Which leads on to the next one, which is self-advocacy. And that's about finding your voice and knowing that you do have rights. You do have the right to change your doctor, psychiatrist, psychologist, whoever. If it's not working for you, you have the right to change that, and it's important that you understand what your rights are, which links back to personal responsibility. And the next concept is education. And like I say, for the first 30 years I didn't educate myself at all about my illness or wellness or anything. I just believed everything that professionals told me, and it wasn't until I was introduced to the concept of RAP that I began to educate myself and think about, well, what does make one day better than the other day? What will help me have a better day tomorrow than I've had today? And of course, I couldn't have done all of that without having a good support network around me, and support is the 5th key concept. My husband is a tremendous support to me, but I also have support, what I call hidden support. Like I have a little, well, I did have 2 dogs, but unfortunately one died, but I still have a little Lakeland Terrier. she's a tremendous support to me on days when things aren't as good. because she has to, I have to take personal responsibility and take her out for a walk. And on those walks, I talk to her about all sorts of things and she just listens unconditionally. She's a tremendous support. But I also have other supports. I don't have care providers anymore because I'm proud to say that I was discharged from mental health services thanks to my RAP plan. But I have support from family, from friends, and my faith is a huge support to me also. So now I'm going to talk to you about the stages of RAP. And I've already mentioned some of the tools that I use, because one of my tools is my dog, who I can talk to and play with. But I also have other tools. I do things like mindfulness, and I'll talk a little bit more about that further on. But wellness tools can be anything. The best wellness tools don't have to cost anything. They can be free, and you can be as creative with wellness tools as you want, as long as they're meaningful to you. Another one of my tools is what I call my happy box, and it's a box of things that people have given me over the years. Some things are little cards that say what a good friend I've been. I've got key rings that people have given us that mean something to me. And on bad days I can get those things, I can get my happy box out and look through them and remind myself of all of the nice things and how important wellness tools are. So the next stage is daily maintenance. Daily maintenance always starts with a description of what you like when you're well, and that's so that other people who you want to share your plan with can actually see what you like when you're well. So like on my what I'm like when I'm well, I say I'm smiley, I'm chatty, I maintain eye contact with people, I don't isolate myself, I engage in family life. So that kind of thing, whatever it is, whatever you look like when you're well. The next bit is things that I need to do every day to keep myself well. And they could be some of the tools from my wellness toolbox that I use. But they could also be simple things like sleep's important. If I haven't slept for 6 hours a night, I know the next day isn't going to be as well as what it could be. So 6 hours sleep, I should try to do that every night. And also to eat healthily. Sometimes when I'm rushing around it can get to like 2 o'clock and I think, oops, I haven't had any lunch. And that's not good for anybody. So it's things that I need to do every day to keep myself well. Part of the list of daily maintenance is also about things that you might need to do to keep yourself well. So again, that could be some wellness tools. For some people who I've done RAP groups with, it's making sure that they talk to one other person a day, or at least try to engage in a conversation, even if it's on the telephone, if they don't see them face to face. So daily maintenance are things that you do regularly. And lots of the time you do them without even realising you're doing them, but having a RAP plan means that when days aren't as good, I have it written down so I know what I should be doing, so I can refer back to it. And the next stage after daily maintenance is triggers. Triggers are external events over which most of the time we have no control, and it can be anything for anybody. it can be anniversaries, it can be festival dates. For me, it can be smells. There's a few smells that I know are triggers for me. And what I used to do was either avoid the smells, which is impossible. So I often used to find myself being triggered and not having anything to counteract that trigger with. But since doing my wrap plan, I now have an action plan, so that if I know I'm going to be in a situation where a trigger is pressed, I can draw on a wellness tool that is specific to that trigger. So if a certain smell triggers an event for me, a traumatic event from my past, I used to experience flashbacks, but now I practice mindfulness when that trigger happens, so that it keeps me grounded and focused on the here and now, rather than sending me reeling back to the past. The next stage after triggers is early warning signs. When I'm talking to other people in rap groups, I often say, like, an early warning sign to me is the feelings that you get when a trigger's being pressed. It's not always the case, because sometimes the feelings come without the trigger being pressed. But it's those kind of like either sinking feeling in the bottom of your stomach, or you start to sweat, or you start to shake. And again, when that happens, I have an action plan, which includes a wellness tool that I can use to try to combat these. So for every trigger that's pressed, I have a wellness tool that I can draw on. And for every early warning sign that I display, I also have a wellness tool that forms part of my action plan that I can take action on. Sometimes early warning signs are so subtle that you don't maybe necessarily see them yourself, but hopefully, because your supporters know you so well, obviously not my dog, she wouldn't be able to do very much except be there, but like if I'm excluding myself from the family, if I have the computer on and I'm not interacting, my husband will say, what's going on? And I haven't actually noticed what I'm doing, but he notices that I'm not actually engaging in the family life, I'm excluding myself. So that reminds me that I need to take action, that I need to do something. I need to pull on a tool from my hypothetical toolbox to enable me to counteract those feelings that you get. The next stage is when things are breaking down. So that triggers are being pressed, the early warning signs are there, and perhaps you've tried tools, or perhaps you've ignored them completely. But when things are breaking down is the stage before crisis. So it's very important that you try to take action at this stage to prevent it things from sliding even further down. When things are breaking down, it has to have very direct actions in, because of the nature of, almost at the point of crisis. So it needs to be short things that you can do. And again, your action plan should be a short plan of actions that you need to take. It might be that you need a supporter to step in and start to take over some of the things that you normally do in your life, but you're feeling a little bit out of control, and with their support you might be able to regain that. So the next stage is crisis plan. And a crisis plan again starts with what you like what you look like when you're well. You can share any part of your plan that you want with people who provide you with care, but if you're only sharing your crisis plan with them and they don't know the rest of your plan, it's important that they have something that they can see what you look like when you're well. For instance, if you get admitted into hospital because things have slid so far down, they're only going to be presented with somebody who's very unwell, and they might have no idea whatsoever what you look like when you're well. So it's important that they have something that they can refer to so that they can see when you're starting to get better. Part 2 of the crisis plan is where you would have your symptoms or distress and experiences written down. So for me, one of the symptoms that I display is I become obsessed with the news on the television and would watch it for 24/7, which isn't a good idea because actually it doesn't help at all, and it just feeds into how unwell I'm feeling and makes us feel even worse. So describing some of the symptoms, because you might not be presenting with them all, it's important that you write those down so that, again, so people can see. Part 3 of your crisis plan is your supporters, and this is who you want involved in your plan, but also who you don't want involved in your plan. Like for me, I would want my husband involved in my plan and my best friend involved in my plan, but I wouldn't necessarily want either of my 2 adult sons involved in my plan because they have issues of their own, so they couldn't really support me. Part 4 is your medical information and medication. So that's about any physical illness you might have as well as your mental illness, the medication you're taking, including any complementary therapies that you might be taking. It should also have your GP listed on there, any other care providers that are involved in your care. And also on mine I like to put acceptable medication and unacceptable medication, because again there's some certain medications that I don't want to take. Part 5 is treatments that help and treatments that don't help at all. Again, that could be around medication, but it could also be around different psychological therapies that you've tried before. I always find it useful to have not only why the treatment helped you, but also why the treatment didn't help you, so that people know why you don't. You're just not saying, I don't want that treatment, you're actually telling them why. Part 6 is your home community respite plan, and it should describe how a hospital admission could be prevented. And a peer respite centre might be a way forward. A lot of people that I have done RAP groups with have used peer respite facilities. I personally haven't used them, but only because there's none in our area. Part 7, again, it's hospitals that you would like to use, hospitals that you perhaps wouldn't want to go to. Part 8 is about help from others, things that people can do to help, and also again, what doesn't help. Like for me, people asking, are you alright all the time, it doesn't help. It makes me irritable and increases any symptoms that I have. Part 9 is really an important part of the plan, because this is the part that tells people that they can back off and they don't actually, that you're starting to feel better and you don't need them involved as much. And the last part is the post-crisis plan. The post-crisis plan, I always liken it to saying, this is the time I give myself permission to get better. Because previously, prior to having a RAP plan, I used to go from crisis to thinking that I should be better the next day, which isn't a reality. So for me, it sets out stages that supporters can start gradually to let go, and I can begin to take control of my own life back. And it's also a time when I use to reflect on the whole of my RAP plan, to see what maybe went wrong, what I hadn't done, and what I could do better the next time. Thank you for listening.